Hello, Hot Rodders. Rev your engines as we bring to you a list of 3 American muscle cars that not only personified a generation, but revolutionized it. For the car that started a revolution and put American muscle on the map, wait until the very end because you could never guess the number 1 car on the list. Ready? Let's hit the road. To start things up, why not go for a car that almost defines the word badass? The 1968 Dodge Charger RT. Alas, when it comes to legendary muscle cars, one cannot ignore the Charger RT here, because this car wasn't only about speed, it was about attitude. First of all, the 440 Magnum V8 engine that was under the hood of the car was not a bad choice at all, making 375 horsepower and an incredible 480 pound-feet of torque. This kind of brute could shove you back in your seat. But Dodge was not finished yet. But for the ultimate speed freaks, they had the 426 Hemi option, an engine that is so famous that even uttering its name gives car lovers goosebumps. Powered by the 426 Hemi with 425 horsepower, the Charger RT could shoot to a speed of 60 miles per hour, coupled with the standard 5.3 seconds, and complete the quarter mile in exactly 13.5 seconds at 105 miles per hour. And on the open road, top speed was 150 miles per hour. However, the Charger RT did not only bring raw horsepower, it came with the aesthetics to back it up. That long, sleek, silhouetted automobile built with muscularity and that famous bottle-shaped look was the pure embodiment of American automobiles. They made the front end sleek, almost sinister, and eye-catching wherever the car went. This car had presence. It didn't matter if it was idling at top speed or flying down the interstate. You never doubted that this Charger RT meant business. And of course, we cannot forget its role in pop culture. The Charger RT was not just a car, it was a movie star. Did you ever watch that legendary car chase in Bullitt? Yeah, the film in which Steve McQueen's Mustang GT races through the streets of San Francisco. The car it was chasing, the black one that scrawled the tire tracks across your forehead, was a 68 Charger RT. And then there's the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard. It may have been cheesy, but you have to admit that an orange Charger flying over rivers and racing from the cops makes it one of the coolest screen muscle cars. This brings us to a question as to why the 68 Charger RT is exceptional. It's quite obvious. It was a package of might, magnificence, and aura. This car was not about figures, it was about attitude. It's a car that tells everyone on the road that they should clear the way to make space for the car, without even having to step on the accelerator. If you're interested in muscle cars or automobiles in general, the Charger RT is one car that is worthy of admiration. Next, let's talk about a car that took the Mustang, a car already destined for greatness, and turned it into a street-legal race car. The 1965 GT350 Shelby. Where the Charger RT was a bruiser, the GT350 was all about balance, efficiency, and highly tuned performance. This wasn't just a muscle car, it was a purpose-built racer, the brainchild of one Carroll Shelby, arguably the most revered name in post-war American motorsport. Now, what sets the GT350 apart? The whole exercise began with the core of any car, the 289 cubic inch V8. Well, on its own, the 289 was a good engine, but as with everything, Shelby didn't stop there. He fine-tuned it to an application of 306 horsepower, and this is a power output that in any car as light as the GT350 was enough to provide character to it. The result? This Mustang had been claimed to do 0 to 60 in just 6.6 seconds, and roast through the quarter mile at 14.6 seconds at 98 miles per hour, with a maximum speed of 140 miles per hour. But where the GT350 really stood out, though, it was how it went about doing these things. Fast. Shelby also modified the suspension of the Mustang by increasing the stiffness of the springs, the size of the front stabilizers, as well as the introduction of adjustable Koni shocks. He even replaced the basic brakes with big disc brakes to provide the GT350 with the stopping power that went along with the go. And then there was the weight clusters and other equipment that you can imagine was removed by Shelby, taking out anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. thus making the GT350 one of the lightest and most maneuverable muscle cars of modern production. It was, however, a car that one could chuck into a corner with some serious degree of velocity and exit that maneuver with a smile on one's face. And let's not forget to mention the several appearances in sweet, black, seductive, sassy, and everything in between. The GT350 was focused, raw, and uninhibited. The Wimbledon white paint with the blue racing stripes was more than mere pigment. It was emblematic of the brand. This car was not here to play pranks or jokes in any way or form. Easy to fuel and drive cold air right to the engine through clean air intakes. The design was brute, menacing, and seemed to say, ready to pounce. The GT350 was not just a road car, though. It was crafted to rule the racetrack, and it succeeded in accomplishing this. It wasn't until the mid-60s when the GT350 stormed the SCCA racing competition, and within a short time was getting wins and demonstrated that American muscle was capable of challenging and even defeating Europe's best. This car was all about enthusiasm, and it didn't disappoint at all. Well, what separates the 1965 Shelby GT350 from all these cars? It was the car that taught the world that we wanted more than just drag strip domination from our muscle cars. What Shelby achieved with the GT350 was that the American cars could handle, they could corner, and most of all, they could win on the racetrack. This was indeed a car that had the aggression of the American muscle cars and the grace of the European sports cars, and it was pure magic. If you're a Mustang fan, if you're a racing aficionado, the GT350 is a car which requires your admiration. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the car that started it all. The one that ignited the muscle car revolution and forever changed the automotive landscape. Apart from the 1964 Pontiac GTO. Muscle cars did not exist before the GTO. This was the car that made it all possible. But what made the GTO stand out? First, let's look at the engine. A 389 cubic inch V8 that in the ultimate tri-power form produced 348 horsepower. Well, that might not seem like a lot when compared to the giants that were created in later years. But in 1964, that was simply incredible. The GTO could accelerate from 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds and take 14.5 seconds to complete the quarter mile at 100 miles per hour. But the GTO wasn't all about the figures. It was more about the emotions it created. And this is why the GTO wasn't just a car, it was an experience, an unforgettable one at that. As soon as you turned the key and that V8 came to life, you immediately understood that it was going to be a unique experience. The GTO was something loud, invasive, and above all, unmistakably American. It was in no way cultured or classy. It was just unadulterated muscle and might. But that was the beauty of it. However, there was something that made the GTO stand out. This car was affordable. Prior to the GTO, if one was to own a car that could go fast, then he or she had to acquire a car that was in the exotic class. The GTO revolutionized this. It began with taking a mid-sized car, putting a large engine in it, and selling it for the price that a normal working man could afford. This was a car for the young ones, the adventure seekers, and the people crazy about the speed. It was a car that answered the question, why have a car of ordinary standard when one can have the best? Then there was the glaze. It didn't particularly look fast or exotic, but the GTO had a certain potency that was hard to ignore. The absence of superfluity, the sleek appearance, the jagged but provocative front bumper grille, and the twin bonnet vents. These features, in their simplicity and aggression, distilled for the GTO a look that was both sinewy and classy. This was a car that didn't have to brag to be acknowledged as one of the best. However, that's not all the GTO was responsible for. It revolutionized the global automotive market. GTO was the automobile which put the muscle car family on the map. It created a generation of car enthusiasts and made others wake up and improve themselves. Without the GTO, the Charger RT, the GT350, Camaro, Firebird, along with all the muscle cars that we know today would not be here. What could we say about its place in pop culture? It was the car that everyone wished to possess and be associated with, as it was the ultimate symbol of power. He was parked in front of the car that every young hot rodder wanted to own at one time in life. It was the car that you built model kits of, that you plastered posters of on your bedroom wall. The GTO was not just a car, it was a symbol of a generation. Thus, what makes the '64 Pontiac GTO unique? It is obvious. It was the first. The GTO was the car that began the whole muscle car craze, and for this reason, the GTO has its rightful place in automotive history. It was the car that painted a picture to the world of what American muscle was capable of. And it was the car that made us all fall in love with speed, power, and performance. In its simplest terms, if there is one single car that you can attribute to all the other major developments and innovations of the muscle car craze, it is the GTO. And that, in a nutshell, is how three more American legends drove fast, and even faster than that, revolutionizing the sport. The Charger RT, the GT350, and the GTO are the cars that defined the muscle car boom, and each had its own unique attributes that contributed to the overall experience. If you like this brief journey through muscle car history, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and click the little bell icon to receive updates on our next episode. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you in the next